Hey guys, welcome on back in to the channel. I know it's been a minute since I've did a live, but I wanted to come on here and do a live. Of course, this is a chart that has been requested in the past, but I did not get a chance to do it. Okay, so I know you guys can't see my screen right now, but I have my other tabs opened up to the information that we need to look at when it pertains to President John F. Kennedy. Now, I haven't really dug too much into JFK, and I'm actually shocked that I have not done a past life reading on JFK because, of course, you guys know that past life readings are just like totally my passion. Okay, so amongst other things, but I did a past life reading, I think, on Joe Biden. I think I did one on Barack Obama. I believe I did one on Donald Trump. I did one on George Washington, or maybe I just read George Washington's chart. But either way, so I like history, and past life stuff to me is definitely a part of history. So that's why I just get really excited about it whenever I do it. I also get excited about doing you guys' past life readings because I think they're just so interesting and the story is never the same. Okay. But so maybe I'll think about doing a past life reading for JFK. I'm not sure at this particular point, but hello to everybody that is listening. I know some of you guys like to hide. That's okay, because I'm kind of like that too. I like to hide. I don't necessarily like to show my face unless I necessarily have to. But it doesn't mean that I'm not engaged or I'm not interested. So I realize that those are just the type of people that I have over here. That's fine. So anyway, we're going to take a look at John F. Kennedy's chart. I'm not going to go super in depth with it. It's going to go the same way I've did other charts in the past, but I am going to do something a little bit different. I did go ahead and run the event chart for the day and the time exactly whenever it was reported that John F. Kennedy had been shot. I'm surprised that I don't know more about this story, but maybe I just did not take the time to look. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. Oh my God. I am like, it's been a minute since I've did this, shared my screen. So I'm having a little bit of a brain fart. So, where are you? Not there. Presentations. Nope. Hold on. I'm going to have to make this bigger because I can't see. Okay, there it goes. I could not see it. It's right there at the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Hopefully, I don't know if I should share my entire screen or not. Okay, hopefully you'll be able to see if I just share the window. Okay. I hope you guys can see that because let me see if I move to another tab if you can see it. Okay. I just try to make sure you guys can see that tab. But anyway, so here is the chart. It's a little bit small, but I made it a little small so that I can have the other stuff on my screen so that I can see it as well. So I'm going to try to make this a little bit bigger, but not too much bigger. Okay, so this is the event chart, as you can see right here. So, whenever the shots were first fired, it was a Friday. I believe that would have been first day of Sagittarius season, I guess, depending on the time, because Sagittarius starts on the 22nd of November, 12:30, which is kind of odd because that's normally the basic time I put in for people who don't know their birthday. But either way, so and he was shot in Dallas, Texas. It was almost like, I think he was literally 10 miles down the road from the airport. But so yeah, this is exactly whenever the shots happened. Okay, so in this particular chart, because at the time, whenever the shots were fired, he was not pronounced dead. So I'm going to take this chart as he will be signified by the 7th house. Again, this is an event chart, or they call it a horary. Okay, whenever you can look at the planets and time and they kind of can tell you the story. So we're going to take him, or I'm going to use him or signify him as the 7th house in this case. Now, interestingly enough, since he is being signified by the 7th house, as you can see, our first house is in Aquarius. So the sister sign or the opposite of Aquarius is Leo, right? Just look across the street, remember. So the sun on that day, like I said, even though it was the first day of Sagittarius season, I guess the time matters because the sun shows that it's at the last degree of Scorpio. And look, it's on a karmic degree. Okay, so we know if a planet is on a karmic degree, which would be the 29th degree, which is normally tied to Leo, there is some sort of significant ending. Of course, since I said karmic ending, we could even possibly say there is some sort of karma attached to it. Now, it doesn't have to be in a sense like, well, this person had it coming to them and this was their karma. We don't know that to necessarily be true or not, but there is some sort of karmic energy in the universe. Something needs to be completed. Something needs to be finished up. Okay. Now, another interesting thing that I want you guys to notice is his sun. You see how we have all these other aspects in the chart. Okay. We have, Venus making aspects. We have Mercury, Mars making aspects, but the sun, which would be signified by JFK, is not making a single aspect at all. I wouldn't say it's rogue, but in a way it's like rogue. It's just sitting there. And it's in the 9th house of, I would say, travel. Now, 9th house, I can also see as like relocation or long distance moves, right? So it is fitting, that he was far away from his home. Okay. Because he was born, I think, in Massachusetts or something like that. But even outside of that, with him being president, being in the White House, Dallas is far away from Pennsylvania Avenue. Okay. So just based off what I read this morning, with their unaspected sun, it's not making any aspects to any planets whatsoever. And I can show you, the table shows it right here. See this column that look, 0 aspects. I mean, it's making a conjunct to the midheaven, but I don't think I would count that in this particular instance. Okay. So what I read, actually it's the exact conjunct on the midheaven. But the midheaven is in a different sign. So that's why I said, I don't think I would necessarily count it. Okay. But what I read this morning was the unexpected sun can even sometimes make someone a little bit self-absorbed. Okay. But I took it as, because we know the sun is like that burst of energy, the sun, of course, we know is tied to Leo, but the sun likes entertainment. The sun likes to play. The sun doesn't really like to be alone. And in this particular instance, I took it as, when it comes to JFK, it's possible that that day, whenever that day came, he may have felt like, you know what, I really just don't want to leave the room. I really just want to be to myself. He doesn't, of course, he can't really be to himself because he's the president. You got Secret Service detail. You have all these people that have to be around you. But for some reason, the energy to me feels like I really just don't want anybody around me. And some of you know that feeling. It's like the eerie feeling you get where, like, I just don't really want to be bothered today. Like, I just want to stay in the bed. But that is the unfortunate part when you're a public figure or you are a politician. You don't get that option to just sit at home and do nothing. But to me, I feel like for him, he really wanted to do that. And not to mention, the sun is finishing up its time in Scorpio. We know Scorpio is tied to what? Death, transformation. Okay. So, that's another interesting point as well. But let's take a look at the definition for the 29th degree of Scorpio. Powerful, guiding influencer, drastic changes, attraction, position of trust. So that fits for the type of person that he was. I almost said is, like he was still alive or something like that. But anyway, so like I said, outside the fact of him possibly just wanting to be alone, we also do have that other energy as well where, his influence may have even possibly been some sort of a threat to whatever this group of people that it was a threat to. Now, where this group of people is from, I don't know, or where they're at. I don't know if they're in his blind spot or what, but either way, someone having a problem with his influence. And it's possible, You know, who knows if something maybe possibly leaked that particular day or before then, and there may have been news being spread around that there was going to be some sort of drastic change that he was going to make. Who it could have been possibly to maybe banking or something possibly tied to financially speaking, that only his group of people or only, White House, employees or whoever works underneath him would only know about. Okay. Because we know Scorpio likes secrets, right? So it almost feels like, some sort of secret leaked. Okay. And I don't think it was like in detriment to him. It was more so like, okay, we can't allow him to make this change. We can't allow that to happen. Okay. So that's why I said his influence may have been a threat in some sort of manner for something that could have been coming up. Who knows? Upcoming months, upcoming year, however you want to say it. Okay. But we also know that like his wife was in the car or something like that. Whoever, I don't remember who shot him, but whoever it was, they wanted it to be loud. Okay. The shebang. They didn't want to do, I mean, who knows if it's possible, whether they already tried it before. And, they're just like, it's not going to be loud enough because I want to make a point that whatever changes you're trying to do is not going to work if we don't agree, if we don't like it. So it feels very, in my opinion, even though he is the president, or even though we have presidents and they sit on their seat of power, or they say they sit on the seat of, one of the most powerful nations in the world, whatever, in my opinion, they still somewhat have a boss. Okay. So it almost feels like whoever would be considered JFK's boss, I guess, in this way would have been like, oh no, that's not going to work. It's that energy where you no longer want to be the puppet. Okay. You no longer want to have your strings pulled for you to have to do this or do that. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to make this change because I feel like it may be good for the economy or it may be good for something financially speaking, whatever. They possibly did not necessarily want that to happen. Okay. And they're just like, oh, you're getting too big for your britches because what the hell do you think this is? You are not the puppet master. You are the puppet. We tell you what to do. So we have maybe somewhat of like a struggle, a push or pull a little bit when it pertains to power dynamics. Because again, with his son being on this 29th degree of Scorpio, he is a powerful figure. He is an influencer. He is the person that can evoke or invoke drastic changes, maybe better than what people were expecting. So, whoever this was that, kind of planned this, where it's like, oh no, we can't allow that to happen. Okay. But I just found that kind of interesting whenever we look at the event chart when it comes to JFK. Now, we know Mars rules over guns, right? We have guns in the 10th house is normally tied to Capricorn, right? Capricorn, I believe, is FBI, CIA, Secret Service or something like that. So I'm not sure if they would have possibly been involved in this particular instance. Maybe. Okay. But either way, so let's go ahead and move on over to, because this 10th house is just packed. Okay. It's like a scramble, it's like a scramble to figure out who did it. But maybe you don't really get the person who truly did it. It's possibly still a mystery in some sort of manner. It's just because there's a fall guy don't necessarily mean that he is the fall guy. But moving on over to his chart. Okay. So I already pulled that up. So now we're already over here at John F. Kennedy's natal chart. So like I said, we're just going to take a look at a little bit of the aspects and then we'll move on. All right. So Midhaven, I mean, that is just so fitting. A lot of politicians, or I would say, a lot of politicians, because what's the guy, the one who's no longer the prime minister for UK, Boris Johnson, he has his Midhaven in Cancer as well. Now, of course, it depends on the degree, but we know Cancer is tied to Moon, right? Remember, I think in I think that Oprah Winfrey video, I talked about how Moon rules over like the municipal part of the government, okay, kind of like local government and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure the Moon also rules over some more politics. I just haven't went down the list of exactly what it is. I still have to see if Moon is tied to the House of Representatives. It may, but I got to read down that list. Okay. So that's interesting. Okay. Then of course we know he has a Libra ascendant. Oh, he's born at 3:00 in the morning. But anyway, so he was born on the 29th. I mean, he also was born kind of technically on like a karmic number or karmic day, but we're not going to try to pay too much attention to that. Okay. So with him being born on the 29th, we need to, break that number down to a single digit so we can kind of get the energy flow when it pertains to JFK. So we break down that 29 to, what is that going to be? An 11. Now we know 11 is a master number, right? But also 11 is tied to Scorpio. Okay, so let's go on over to our cheat sheet. I hope you guys can see this. I don't know if you can. No, you can't. Hold on. I can't. Well, you don't have to see it. Don't worry about that because this is on my website, so you guys can look at it later on. But anyway, I'm going to the astrology and numerology guide that I typed up a long time ago. I didn't even think I was actually going to use it the way I'm using it now, but look how the flow of events works. But so we're going to go on down to Scorpio, which is number 11, or 2 energy. Now we know 2 energy technically is Moon. But in this one, they also have 2 tied to Scorpio because of that number 11 master number. Okay. So with Scorpio or number 11, the highlights here are inspiration. So again, that goes back to the chart that we just looked at a second ago when it comes to the day that he was shot. Remember, his sun or his planet, according to the event chart, is sitting on the 29th degree of Scorpio on the sun position. Okay. And it had the same exact meaning. Powerful, inspirational. Okay. What was the other one? Guiding influencer, attraction, position of trust. I mean, who the heck didn't want JFK if we're going to be honest? Okay. What's that? It's like, codes and many different area codes. Okay. So, it's like, okay. Anyway, so to finish this off with the highlights here, we have also motivation, another point that was made on the 29th degree of Scorpio. We have spiritual will. We have magnetism. We have collaboration or cooperation. Okay. Now, I'm going to go look at his Mars in just a second, but I'm going to finish this first. So the challenges here, with this Scorpio tied to number 11 is fear, emotional instability, indecisiveness. Now, remember I said in that chart with his sun sitting up there or with the sun sitting up there by itself, remember I said, I have this feeling that he just wanted to be alone. Like, I just don't want to do it today, but you may have this energy as well where you're teeter-tottering the fence. You're kind of just like, maybe it's just my fears, because with him kind of like having this Scorpio type of energy, he may have been very skeptical of anything and anyone. So maybe, I don't know his political history, maybe in some sort of way that could have made him really great for politics because of his skepticism. It's like, you know what? I need to research this first. And he may have been somebody like that. Even though you're the president, you're pretty much getting all of the information handed down to you. You don't really have to do the research. It may have been, it's not good enough. It may have been like, you know what? I need to do my own research on this first, and then I'll get back to you. But this just plays large part into the challenge of fear when it pertains to the Scorpio energy. Now, I don't know, if some of you guys are Scorpio or if you've dated Scorpio before, shoot, even if you have Scorpio children, family, parent, whatever, that fear is a part of them. They don't want it to be that, but it's almost like it's embedded in them. And it's something that definitely has to be worked out over time so that they can know, like, there's nothing wrong with not trusting people exactly all the time. But for you to almost come at it in a sense of like almost everybody's out to get you, or you're just super, super afraid of the world, that doesn't help. It's almost like, And we know Scorpios can have near death experiences as well. So he may have had some of those before. And, sometimes that can be the turning point for them as to why they kind of get stuck in that fear, because they program themselves in a way to keep rethinking of that old story, and they don't know how to let it go. So then when it happens again, it's just like, I knew it was going to happen. So that's something that definitely I would say needs to be ironed out whenever it pertains to Scorpio, and sometimes that fear is probably a good thing because it keeps them out of trouble and us too, but either way, so with these challenges there for him of fear, emotional instability, indecisiveness, again, I'm going to look at the Mars, but it may even be a situation as well of maybe even kind of being pushed into politics, maybe even before you're ready. He may have even had a parent. Doesn't necessarily have to be dad all the time, because, we associate that masculine energy with instilling fear. It could have been mom. It could have been grandfather, whoever it could have been, instilling that fear in you, where it's like, you have to do what I say you need to do, or we're going to have an issue. So maybe even somebody who's like afraid to carve out their own path. Sacrificial, maybe in some sort of manner. And I'm not saying, what happened to him that day was sacrificial, but the energy is giving me, when it pertains to him, I'm not saying it's going to be for everybody. It kind of comes across like you're going to be the one. It's not like they're giving you an option. They're telling you that this is what you're going to do. That does not, especially if your parents or the people guiding you is telling you what you have to do instead of giving you that outlet to decide for yourself, I would say that doesn't bode well for emotional stability at all. How could you possibly feel emotionally stable in your decisions if they've all been made for you, if they've been pushed upon you? So whenever decisions have all been made in one particular area, then guess what you do? You start to act out in another area. Now, we know Mars is tied to sex. Remember, I just said holes in different area codes. Okay. So he may have, got out of hand in another part of his life because he has no control over here. And, that's why I say it comes across like kind of sacrificial in some sort of a way. Okay. He also has, I'm looking at the natal chart right here. I didn't realize that he has his North Node in Capricorn. It's also unaspected, but his North Node is in the house of communication. Maybe somewhat of like the public speaker, captivating. Now we know, and maybe something about his voice, even though, voice to me would be more so of second house thing. With that North Node being in the house of communication, something not shocking, but maybe just something about his speech, something about the speeches that he made. Now, if they were his or not, I don't know. Because again, I feel like we have somebody where everything is kind of like done for you. Everything is laid out. Like I'm pretty sure that's a fact that presidents have speech writers. Okay. But you would think they probably put some of their own thoughts or personality into it. And this one, I don't know. I'm kind of getting robotic a little bit. I'm not saying North Node, third house people are robotic. I'm talking specifically about JFK. But anyway, so back to our astrology and numerology guide when it comes to the number 11 and Scorpio. Okay. So outside of the challenges that we talked about in the indecisiveness, the lessons that need to be learned here, learning how to lead others without the need to prove yourself or self-worth. But remember, this goes back to me talking about if your life is being decided completely in one particular type of area, how can you possibly find out what fits for you? Okay. And then the other part of the lesson is don't impress your personality on others. I am going to take it in the opposite direction. I'm going to take it in the opposite direction of don't let other people impress their personality on you. Because like I said, to me, this kind of comes across like you are taking up the persona of someone completely different, and it's not really you. Remember, like I said, it's like split. Even though we're not talking about Gemini energy here, it's kind of split in some sort of a manner with him, Maybe who he is really on the left, but who he's expected to be, of course, is on the right. A lot of people struggle with that, especially if you come from that type of family dynamic. It feels like you can't come up for air because somebody always has something to say. Someone always wants you to do it their way. You know it. Parents who try to live vicariously through their children because they themselves feel like they failed at having notoriety or fame or popularity. So they feel like the way for me to get that is through my children. No, please don't do that. I mean, it really rocks me to the core. Okay. Whenever people are doing that. By the way, so okay. Paradoxal is not that bad if you work with the energy correctly. Okay. It's not that bad. Anyway, so, oh yes, let's look at his Mars. Oh, would you look at that? His Mars is in fall in Taurus. This is kind of concerning for me because me and JFK, I mean, our chart is not the same, but I'm concerned because, some similarities here that, yes, raise my eyebrows. But anyway, he has Mars in Taurus, which Mars is at fall in Taurus, right? Or it's in detriment, in Taurus, because Mars belongs to Scorpio natally. And we're not talking about bringing in outer planets, okay? Because Pluto would be considered like an outer planet. We're not talking about that. We're talking about traditional rulership. So Scorpio, Aries have Mars, okay? So we know the sister sign of Scorpio is Taurus. Remember, across the street neighbor is Taurus. Mars doesn't really like being at Taurus's house. Why? Because Taurus is, we know, bullheaded, and bulls kind of do whatever the hell they want to do. I mean, some of you guys have seen it, like a bullfight. They don't do anything until you provoke them. Otherwise, it's just, I'm grazing along. I'm doing what I want to do. Okay. It's a bull's world, and a bull's going to do what a bull's going to do. So, and not to mention, he has it in his 8th house of sex, other people's money. Okay. Now I tell you something. It's my opinion, of course. Hopefully we don't have somebody, I'm not going to say abuse, not going to say that, but remember again with that event chart, with him being on that degree of being very attractive, hopefully it's not a situation where his attraction may have been used as a talking point to get certain things out of people. And you know what I mean by talking point, dig a little deeper in your imagination. You know exactly what I mean. Hopefully that's not the case. But remember, like I said, it feels like he took on the persona of someone else. And his 8th house is so packed. And we know the 8th house is a cult. I mean, it kind of gives me a little witchy woo type of vibe, to be honest, like summoning, energy or I don't know if JFK played around with the Ouija boards. I don't know. That'll be something fun to look at after I get finished with this. So I don't know if he played around with stuff like that, but imagine somebody who's playing around with Ouija boards and stuff like that. And you really don't think like, oh no, this it doesn't exist. Spirits don't exist, until your ass gets a spirit on your ass. And then you're just like, oh my God, why do I feel like this? So, I mean, maybe a little bit of shape-shifting type of energy. I mean, he may have had that type of talent where he could have possibly turned out to be somebody completely than who he truly is. But that was what I was talking about when we looked at the astrology and the numerology guide. Okay. So we're going to take a look at his Mars in just a second. And then of course, by the way, very slow, okay, to rise as well. However, very, could be very sexually experienced, even though his Mars is in detriment in Taurus. Okay, maybe even oversexed a little bit. Okay, but even if we're not talking about somebody who is actually doing the do, we may be having kind of like, a Charles and Camilla situation. Remember when they were kind of just like releasing the tapes of all that, sexy talk that Charles was giving to Camilla all those years? It kind of is given that when it pertains to JFK. So he probably will talk your draws off. Okay. I'm only saying that because his Mercury and his Mars are sitting right next to each other in the 8th house. Okay. So he could give it to you. And remember, I said that like type of attractiveness or something like that whenever it pertains to his speech. Like you don't necessarily know what it is. You're kind of just like, why am I drawn in? But it's given very suave when it pertains to, you know, how he communicates. We also know Taurus naturally rules the throat as well, right? And his second house, which naturally belongs to Taurus. So we could say his voice or his communication, okay, with Mars being I need to make sure I point this out. Okay, so let me make this bigger so you guys, so I'm trying not to lose you. I know I'm moving kind of fast. I'm trying not to, but my brain, okay, if you guys were inside my brain, then you will understand why I kind of like stumble over my words, because it's like a computer. I'm processing too much information and I just can't hone in sometimes. But anyway, second house, remember I talked about it in previous charts. If you want to know what house I'm talking about, just look at the number underneath the line. So you see how I'm making this circle around the 2. The 2 is underneath this line, which makes his second house in Scorpio. Okay. And we know his second house ruler is in the 8th house. It just entered the 8th house. Now, I've said it before. I talked about it in Oprah Winfrey's chart. If you haven't watched that video, go watch it. Just scroll back in my recent videos. I said second house, 8th house, if they, and his 8th house is in Taurus. Second house, 8th house, if they connect. Money, 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 money. Okay? To me. I don't know the history of the JFKs. I don't know if they had old money. I don't know if they were possibly broke. But his 8th house lord, which is Venus, because, you know, Taurus is tied to Venus, is also in the 8th house. Money, 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 honey. Even though he doesn't have anything in the second house, it doesn't matter to me because his second house lord and his 8th house lord are in the same house. Okay, so Venus, Gemini, remember I talked about his communication, speeches, schools, education, stuff like that. I don't know if he had those particular type of programs, but it doesn't matter. Those could be avenues for how he can get his money, get his wealth. Okay, so we may even, and maybe in some sort of a context, if we have someone who connects their second house and their 8th house, we may have the starting point of like generational wealth, my opinion. Okay, that may be our starting point. This may be our person that we're looking at right here that is going to like set that stage when it pertains to generational wealth, real money. Now, you know, you could have got, you know, it could have been like a little loan or something like that, but the money was going to grow with JFK regardless. It was going to grow. Okay, so maybe somebody directing his life and telling him you're going to do this. Maybe it wasn't super bad as a whole, but I don't think it really did anything for him. Okay, because he can keep a secret as well. He has so much activity going on in his 8th house. He can keep a secret. Okay, and his Jupiter is also aspecting his 10th house. Remember I talked about that before. If you have Jupiter aspecting and is aspecting his moon, how could you not like the guy? Seriously, even though he may not have necessarily been who you thought he was, because remember, he's taking on the persona of someone else, but regardless, it works. Okay, because he has Jupiter moon, looks like it, and he also has Jupiter midhaven, and they're kind of making somewhat of like a triangle. People rally around this guy. You know, it's I don't want to compare it. I mean, maybe kind of like a vibe of like Abraham Lincoln. Now, I haven't looked at his chart, but one of my, well, I have a lot of favorite movies. So if I say one of my favorite movies, just know that the list is probably 50 movies in, if we're going to be honest. Okay. But one of my favorite movies is Abraham Lincoln and the Vampire Hunter. I just love that movie. But in that movie, they show scenes or they depict Abraham Lincoln, you know, starting off his political career, talking to people in the town, and they're all gathering around him, and they're just so in awe of his speech. Like, oh my God, this guy is so smart. He has this and he has that. It kind of gives me that type of vibe. So it's like, how can you not like this guy? So again, I'm going to have to do a past life reading because I would be curious to know, energetically speaking, you know, what came over from the past life for JFK. But remember I talked about, witchy woo, invoking spirits. What if it was just like you're manifesting, or he's manifesting, or his parents are manifesting, and they're just like, I want a speech. I want to be as impactful in my speech as Abraham Lincoln. I want to look as good as whatever. So you're invoking all this energy from all over the place, trying to make like this perfect human being. If that makes sense. It makes sense to me, even if it doesn't make sense to you. It's like I can see it. Remember, I said it's like playing with a Ouija board and you're invoking spirits. And you're just like, oh, there's no way this is going to work. And then boom, your ass has been hit with spirits. Okay. But either way, so oh yeah, back to the Mars. So let's go take a look at the degree that his Mars is on. Oh, look, Moon 17 degrees. Okay, 17 degree, a Leo degree. So there's a popularity. Remember, I talked about that. And the 29th degree or in Chiron, got that. We're going to look and see if any of his angles were situated on fixed signs. I mean, on fixed stars as well. And 2 degrees in any chart, from what I've seen, can bring some sort of power. Okay. But anyway, so his Mars is at 18 degrees Taurus, and the 18th degree is a Virgo degree. Okay. Very clean. Okay. So it's giving, okay, if you guys have ever seen Scandal, I have so many references for this chart. I kind of like it. If you guys have ever seen Scandal, like Fitzgerald Grant, they had that system going on. Whenever he and Melly got divorced and he's being very clean, or even the system that they had going on before him and Olivia got caught, but he wanted them to get caught, is given kind of like that. Very clean when it pertains to sexual encounters, sexual innuendos. But another thing as well, you may not really know what possibly maybe sexually turns him on, or you may not even really know what he sexually likes because it's in that 8th house. You just don't know. It's a toss up. He may like different things. But remember, I talked about before how we have somebody who's kind of like split in a way. So we have John F. Kennedy, or Jack. I think that's what they call him. We have Jack to our left, and we have JFK, the president, to our right. So you would probably be shocked, honestly, because, I'm just not sold that JFK was JFK, if that makes sense. Anyway, so Taurus, 18 degrees. What are we looking at? So the 8, there it is. I knew it. I didn't know it, but I had an idea. 18th degree of Taurus says incompetence, gentle, weak nature, hopeless. What'd I say? Remember I talked about like somebody doing everything for them, writing it all out. Like, you're going to say this. It's like they don't want any traces of Jack in it at all. Okay. Even though, and maybe that's why I was saying before, where we may have somebody who researches a lot. So he may not have necessarily been like educated like that when it pertains to school. I mean, even if he did, I would assume that somebody possibly did the work for him, but it doesn't really give me that type of drive where he's like wants to be traditionally educated. He wants to be someone where it's just like, I kind of like want to learn on my own. I kind of like want to research it and see what's it going to be. I don't really, peg him as one to sit in a classroom. I just don't really get that. It doesn't mean that he's not smart, even though it says he's incompetent, but it could be his incompetence. Maybe he was incompetent in a manner when it pertains to his job. Hence why I said it just feels like there may have been so much work that needed to be done on this guy to make him like perfect in that way. Okay. I mean, nobody's perfect. So let's look at his, what do you want to look at next? Oh. We'll do the name. I like names. Okay. So first letter of his name, J. J is tied to Saturn, and he has Saturn in fall. Detriment. Saturn not in fall, and Cancer is in detriment. He has Saturn in detriment in none other than Cancer. Now we know that because Saturn belongs to Capricorn. Saturn belongs to Aquarius. So the sister sign of Capricorn is what? Cancer. Okay. We know Cancer likes the women. Okay. Because Cancer is tied to the women. Okay. But we also know Cancer is tied to the public. Okay, I don't know if we could put public office in there. We know Cancer is tied to what? The womb, where, you know, you make children. But Cancer is tied to a lot of stuff. Candles, groceries, music, nursing, interior design, real estate. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Okay. And he has his Saturn in the 10th house. I don't really think, my opinion, I don't really think he wanted this for his career because, again, his destiny planet is in Cancer at fall in the 10th house, which is normally tied to public life. Remember, I said I think JFK was the first that started this Kennedy pipeline of money. It's not saying it in a negative way. Kennedy pipeline of money, because look, his Saturn is not only conjunct his midhaven, that's number one, but it literally just entered his 10th house. So I would probably bet that fame is or was uncomfortable for him. Okay. Especially when it pertains to, especially whenever it pertains to women. But either way, so let's take a look at his, what I named for the Cancer. Oh, let me go back. Let me go to favorites. Okay, so Cancer, nursing, music, interior design, real estate, women, children, homes, property. Okay, so maybe for him, he wanted to do real estate. But we also have to take into account the house that Saturn is placed in. So with the 10th house, we have leadership, government, politics, manager, CEO, president, public figure. However, like I said, his Saturn is not in a good spot. But it may not necessarily be super bad because, you know, a debilitated planet with good aspects works better than an exalted planet with bad aspects. So it's not saying that it was just like the worst thing ever. I just don't necessarily think that it was something that he truly wanted to do. You know, it's literally one of those things where your intuition is saying, I don't know about this, Jack. I mean, not saying that, you know, you're wrong for, you know, this particular career, but it's almost like your intuition trying to stop you from like damage. But it's like, I'm not listening. I'm not listening. Or he possibly didn't have a choice but to go forward, which is possible. Father, maybe. Okay. But anyway, so let's take a look at his Saturn. Either way, he was supposed to be some sort of leader. Okay. That's why I said I think he's like the first. So kudos to him. I mean, I hate it had to be that way. Honestly, I really do. I hate it had to be that way. Anyway, so I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. That he's born. Mars also is military. I didn't think about that because it's you know it's like wars and stuff. I didn't think about that. I should have known that. Did he go to war? Was he in war? Military. Okay, there we go. And yes. Maybe he should have just stayed in that pocket because he's just you know Jack if he's in the military. He's just Jack if he's in the service. He's not the president, so it's easier. You know, it's not a lot of stress. So I really hate it. Just kind of feels like he's just like pushed into it. I really hate that. Okay. Anyway, so I mean, honestly, he may have been one hell of a sharpshooter. I mean, I don't know if they have videos of that, but he may have, you know, he may have had that good skill. So, Saturn, what is your degree? 27 degrees Cancer. Let's take a look. Excuse me, Cancer, 27 degrees. Farming, love for nature, political skill, harmony, attractive, sympathy. Yeah. Or, I mean, remember I said like local government, I guess that probably should have been where it stopped. But I still don't feel confident that that him being the president was really on his list. Like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I don't think that he really felt like that was truly the right step for him. It's like whenever you want to make change, it's like, hey, I want to make change, but damn, you're really pushing me out there and you want me to change the world. It's almost like somebody putting their burdens on your back and they're just like, take care of that for me because I wasn't able to do that. How is that fair? So then that's why I said you have somebody who goes wild in other areas. Sex, who knows? But anyway, he has his Neptune. Is that Neptune? Yeah. He has Neptune in Leo. So he may have been one of those, you know, drinking only at events, or, doing stuff only at special events, special occasions. It may have not necessarily gotten out of hand, but who knows? Anyway, he here's another thing as well. Again, my opinion. Hopefully he wasn't doing stuff in his office, but I wouldn't put it past him, because that's when Jack is coming out. Because Jack wants to be free. Jack wants a simple life. Okay. Yes, he has political skill, but Jack wants it to be simple. I want to be kind of like away. I don't want, the entire light to be shown on me and everything I do, I don't want that. Okay. Just saying, it's kind of hard not to like this one. Okay. Anyway, but that Virgo moon may be a little bit problematic, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, so where are we going next? I guess we could possibly talk about, I said fixed stars, didn't I? So let's see if he has a fixed star on his midhaven, since his midhaven's in Cancer and he has Saturn right there. Let's see if he has one up there. So his midhaven or his 10th house is 23 degrees of Cancer. So let's take a look at my cheat sheet for fixed stars and see. It might be. Where are you? 20. Yep, here we go. Right here. Smack dab on his 10th house. Right here. I'm going to highlight it so you can see it. Pollux, I think that's how you say it. Contemplative speculation, the audacity, astrology, ruin, disgrace, death. That sucks. Calamity, the immortal twin. Remember I told you about that 8th house, and I talked about it's like he's split. The heartless judge. So JFK, you don't know Jack. Jack is a little out there, but the good parts of him kind of makes it hard to, look at the bad part. Sometimes you just have to laugh, because with him, it kind of gives that energy where you have to laugh because things that he does, that the public wouldn't see, you're like, that's effing ridiculous, but. And it's unfortunate that this particular fixed star is right smack dab on his midhaven. That freaking sucks. Because, it's not saying that even if you have this, it means you're going to be marked by death. His circumstance was just unfortunate. But again, like I said, with that fixed star being right there, no bueno. No bueno. Okay. Let's see. Well, maybe. And then I think he has this one. This one will be conjunct his Saturn. His Saturn's at 27 degrees Cancer. So look at it. What does it say? I don't even know how to say the name. Procyon, I don't know. Anyway, violence, sudden success, then disaster, occult, politics, dissipation. No bueno. So he has 2 fixed stars in an unfortunate position, let's be honest. He has one smack dab on his career house, on the house that deals with public, but also on a house that deals with politics. And then you have another fixed star on your destiny planet. That's why I said a part of him was just like, hell no, this is not right. But you push forward. You push forward because I think somebody else was pushing him forward, unless, like I said, get off the Ouija board and stop calling in. I hope somebody in his family didn't do that, because that would just be stupid, to mark somebody with death like that, because you're just playing around with stuff that you know nothing about. But remember I said, I'm kind of getting shapeshifter. I'm kind of getting someone where you just don't really know exactly who this person is, because they've been made to be someone completely different that is not who they are. Hence why I said they're split. Okay. So I'm not saying doomed, but I think he knew that there's no way that this technically ends well. It's like he had a feeling. Don't ignore that feeling, people. I'm serious. That's why I am the way I am. And that's why I say I don't do it unless I want to. That's it. But I guess we can look at his Venus, okay? Because I think his wife was in the car with him, right? Whenever he unfortunately was shot. He has Venus in what I talk about. I'm going to say it again. Holes and different area codes, okay? I can see Gemini Venus people carrying on multiple relationships at once. Maybe that's just better that way. Okay. But she probably wasn't, she probably knew what it was. It's not, I don't think she was like shocked, like, oh, I know he's going to be completely 100% faithful to me. Some people are just built for that type of life, But anyway, so Venus in the 8th house. Let's take a look at the degree. His Venus is also squaring his moon. This is really the only major aspect it's making besides making it a jump to Aquarius right here. But can you imagine how many people probably were just like, I love you, John or Jack, Oh, okay. Anyway, let me stop laughing because this will be a serious moment. Anyway, Gemini, 16 degrees, and his Venus is actually on a Cancer degree, but let's read it. So we have, look at that. I was saying it. Teaching ability, ambitious, lasting riches, mechanical abilities, billionaire. So look, billionaire, boom, boom, boom. So if he would have, of course, not, died, he would have easily been a billionaire, and possibly through the help of his wife. I mean, come on. You kind of need that whenever you're going to be president, because, it's not for everybody. Okay. But anyway, so in the 8th house, but it would have been very quiet. It wouldn't have been like, it may have been on Google, but it may not have really been true. But also this could be another thing as well. His net worth may be ridiculous. Money that we probably couldn't even count. But remember, like I said, he is like the first. So people, if you look at your natal chart and your 2nd house makes a aspect to a planet in your 8th house, they got to make an aspect, or your 2nd house lord is in your 8th house with your 8th house lord, you are it. Okay. You may be the one that starts the chain. It all may come from you. Well, you may not know exactly whenever it's gonna happen, but I feel like it's gonna happen. Now, in his case, it's a little bit unfortunate because unfortunately he, was assassinated. We don't want that, but I'm just saying fixed stars are important as well, especially if they're on your angles. You guys, I think I could post this in I think I can post this in the chat. I hope so. I'm going to post this link here. You guys go look it up. Okay. You guys can go look up these fixed stars, and particularly you want to pay attention to if the fixed star is right on top of your midhaven or your 10th house, or if you have any planets in that 10th house, see if those fixed stars are conjunct. And I'm not talking 3 degrees is too big of a gap. It needs to be between 1 degree and 2 degrees, and 2 degrees may be pushing it. Like, it needs to be exact. See, this one, his Cancer, Saturn, I think, is on like 27 degrees and 27 degrees and 9. So his is literally within like a minute and 40 seconds. So we're good. That would be an exact conjunction. But 3 degrees, 4 degrees, no. It needs to be within 2 degrees. Okay, look at it. That could possibly give you an idea of what you're looking at. Also, I would even maybe say Saturn. You can find your Saturn, because as I've said before, I see that as like destiny, or Saturn rules the end of one's life. So you can see if you have any fixed stars on your Saturn to kind of look and see what I'm looking at. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be exact, okay? Because some stuff is just unfortunate and it happens, but it could give you an idea. I love using fixed stars now. I'm going to go through this list and I'm going to study it. I'm going to learn about everyone. It's probably going to take me maybe a year, okay? Because as you can see, it's a lot to go through. But remember, I gave that example of Boris Johnson. I'm going to go look at his chart right now so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Okay, I know we're moving on to someone else, but he's still in the political sphere. But I want you guys to see what I'm saying, that this is crucial. Okay, and I wonder if JFK had an astrologer, because remember, the fixed star exactly conjunct his midhaven is the one of the astrologer. But I said before that I could see him possibly being that one that had that probably ridiculous intuition where he just knew, like, I don't think this is the right thing. But that's what happens when you push past, what you're supposed to do. But at the same time, we can say something good came out of it because, he started that pipeline of the Kennedy wealth. So, his grandkids, sons, whatever, they should thank their lucky stars. Remember I said sacrificial at the beginning. Okay. But anyway, let's look at Boris Johnson while we're on this political situation. So I can let you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. Excellent birth time. Thank you. Once the chart loads. Okay. Okay. So, I didn't realize his North Node was exact conjunct his midhaven. Jesus. Anyway, and if you don't know who Boris Johnson is, I already talked about it. He was the UK Prime Minister. Okay. Anyway, so you see his midhaven is on 12 degrees, 51 seconds of Cancer, right? So let's scroll on back to our fixed star sheet and let's go back down to Cancer. So we're not going to use, 12 degrees and what was it? What was the time? 12 degrees and 51. So it may be close enough for 2. Because this would be 14 degrees and 51. So let's look at, okay, yes. So he has like 4. Boris Johnson has 4 fixed stars popping on his 10th house. He has Alzir. He has Dizabin, if that's how you say it, 2 jackals. He has Sirius, which is a big one. That's a big one. Okay. He has, I think it's Canopus or something. Anyway, so he has Sirius is the biggie. Okay. Ambition, pride, emotionality, fame, leadership, wealth, fires, drought, danger. And then we have voyages, journeys, creativity. So it's not shocking if we look at the fixed star that's conjunct his midhaven. It's not necessarily shocking that he was born in New York and he somehow became the prime minister of a country, nation, whatever you want to call it, that he wasn't even born in. But this goes with here, ship of the desert. Voyages, journeys, creativity, scandal, violence, great glory, fame, wealth, changes evil to good. Okay. I mean, it's right there. But, he also has had a fall from grace, but that's a part of this right here as well. Loss of fortune, disgrace, trouble, affliction. Okay. He hadn't been poisoned, thank God. Penetrating, analytical. So, that's just another example of me talking about using fixed stars or looking at your fixed stars to kind of get an idea. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean that the bad stuff is going to manifest, okay? Because if you don't believe it's going to manifest or you don't necessarily believe that that's part of your story, you can ignore it, okay? Anyway, but I think Sirius really helped him out because that's the big kahuna, okay? Because I think there's like, I don't know if it's called Arabian stars or I may be saying it wrong, but there's like 9 of them. They're like major because there's one in Pisces as well. And it is, hold on, let me scroll down. It's on like 3 degrees Pisces. Was it Fomalhaut or something like that? I have to scroll. Yeah, this one right here. This is a big one too. Royal Star, the Watcher, Magic, Fame, Occult, Faith. I believe that either Simone Biles is a Pisces moon or she has a Pisces placement and is exactly conjunct this 3 degrees. And look at her. Literally like they're like black girl magic with her. It's right here because magic is right here. Okay. But it also shows how she struggled to deal with that amount of fame. Look, here's another thing as well. Could be, I'm not saying she was like, had an addiction, but addiction, sometimes you can get addicted to that particular type of success that you can lose yourself. We have undesirable associates. Okay. But either way, so this particular paradoxal Chiron is not a fixed star. It's an outer planet. Okay. So if you have Chiron on your, scratch that. Chiron is not a fixed star. All the fixed stars are in this list that I posted that link. Okay, so save it to your phone. You can go through your chart, comb through it. Okay, but yes, so we don't count Chiron as a fixed star. So yeah, those are just a couple examples that I made of. I mean, I don't know. maybe I kind of like politics. I do like politics, but not enough to do what they have to do. You know what I'm saying? Not enough to compromise myself in that type of manner. Because if we're going to do politics, we're going to do politics. It's going to be honest. Like, look, I ain't going to lie to you. We ain't got the money this month to give you. I ain't going to lie to you at all. But we can try to figure something out. You know, politicians, they just won't be that honest. Anyway, so we're pretty much done. I just wanted to make that point. I always say this and I say, oh, it's not going to be long. And here it is, another hour later. I will do that request that one of you guys made for Ellen DeGeneres. I will do that. I don't know what day, so don't hold me to that day. But if you guys have any questions about JFK's chart that we went over or about somebody else's chart, go ahead and drop them now before we go ahead and close this one out. But I like this one. I probably am going to do, like I said, a past life on JFK. It probably won't be a video, though. I'll probably do it on like my podcast because I haven't did anything on there in a while. And I need to probably do another episode on a tarot card deep dive because I like doing those as well because I know I like research. So let me see. Hey, Roberta, thanks for sticking in. Oh, there you go, Paradoxal. So since you have packed 8th house, you need to study it. Like I said, especially if you have your 2nd house Lord is in that 8th house as well, you need to study it. You see how, no, this is Boris Johnson's chart. And you see how Boris, and here's another example as well, even though, not Mercury, even though Neptune is an outer planet, but Jupiter, Neptune is a manifesting signature to me. But also, I think Jupiter, Neptune is a aspect of like the spiritual leader or something like that. So you see how he too has this 2nd house making an aspect to his 8th house. So don't know where he came from, but it grows with him because his 2nd and his 8th are communicating like that. Okay. And also, who knows? He probably manifested it or whatever. And it helps as well that he has his Jupiter, which is exalted. No, it's not. Jupiter's exalted in Cancer. No, it's not. So he has his Jupiter making an aspect to his Cancer midheaven. So it really helps as well that, of course, he has help of the public. You know what I'm saying? So, good for him. And he, too, looks like he has Venus in Gemini, right? Yes, he has Venus in Gemini as well. Speeches, education, journalism is Gemini. Okay. And I talked about Venus moon can also show wealth as well. So there's wealth all through this chart, even if it's not shown like just by the main things, which would be, I think, Jupiter, Pluto, which he does have. So even if he did not have Jupiter, Pluto, he has Jupiter, Neptune to me. He also has Venus moon, and he also has his 2nd house and his 8th house planets in there making an aspect. Booyah. Okay. And he has his 2nd house Lord in the 8th. Okay. So, that's what I'm saying. So, hey, I don't know where he came from. I probably need to look at his background because look at all this gunk. It's not gunk because good for him. He achieved a lot. But look at all this. Politician, historian, author. Look at that. A journalist. Secretary of State, Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs. My God, this thing is long. Okay. So, good for him. Another thing that I've noticed as well, Jupiter, again, midheaven or Jupiter moon aspects can also bring mentors to you, people that want to help you. And that also is a shoe-in for you to build. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that if you don't have those, then you won't have mentors that will come into your life, but maybe you may not recognize them. So you may have to work on maybe being more open to that sort of stuff. Okay. If you really want life to flow the way you would like it to flow, you have to learn how to be not so restrictive. Oh, that's another thing that I have to do. I have to make a video on the spiritual gifts, etc., that you guys wanted to know about. I think you guys are making it a lot more complicated than what it needs to be. Now, granted, some people just have it. Let's be clear, okay? I use sports as an example all the time, but not everybody in the world is a Michael Jordan. He was born with it, okay? Not everybody's like that, but it doesn't mean that you too can't have, unlock your own spiritual gifts, etc., etc. You got to stop worrying about everybody else's journey. You can't model your journey after my journey. I mean, I guess you could if you want to do that, but I wouldn't advise it because you have to carve out your own path. And how can your spiritual gifts really come to you if you're trying to model it exactly behind this person? It's good to have points to take away, yes. But some of you, you're trying to make their journey your journey. And no wonder you ain't got nothing. It don't work that way. Okay. But we'll talk about that later. Let's see if there was any other questions that I missed. Okay. Well, I don't know how you pin that, but I might have to go back through later. Okay. Oh, we're good. All right, everybody, or the people that stuck around, thank you so much. Of course, I will leave this video up so that you guys can look at it in your free time. You also can save that link that I posted. Hopefully it works. It should. Save it, study it. I'm telling you, some of you guys, you're making it more difficult than what it has to be. If you just do a little bit of study, you'll know where you need to go. That's all. Okay, but we're out of here. I'll see you guys on the next one. And yeah,